Okay, this question starts off with understanding subatomic particles, and it wants us to tell them the number of protons, neutrons, and the electrons. So remember, at the bottom number here, this is the atomic number or proton number. And if we know that fact, then we can immediately know that this is going to have 17 protons. And because it's got 17 protons and it is an atom, atoms have to be neutral. So if it's got 17 positive protons, it must have 17 negative electrons. The neutrons, remember this top number is called the mass number, and that is the protons and the neutrons. So all I need to do to get the neutrons is do 35, take away 17. So I'll write that down to remind you. 35, take away 17, and that's giving me 18 neutrons. 3 marks, 1 mark for each of those correct answers. Okay, next little bit. We've got chlorine reacting with silicon. It wants us to calculate the empirical formula for this sample. So remember, empirical formula is the simplest ratio, and we use, if we can't remember to help us, we use the Mr. Moles is underneath the mass triangle. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the elements involved. So I've got silicone and I've got chlorine. And I'm going to record the mass that we have of these. So it tells me I've got 1.4 grams of silicone and I've got 7.1 grams of chlorine. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to find the moles. So to find the moles, if I've got the mass, I need the MR. So my next step is to write down the MR, and you can see we're told those here. So silicone is 28 and chlorine is 35.5. We're then going to find the moles. So let's go back to my triangle for a second. The moles is the mass divided by the MR. So here I've got 1.4 divided by 28. So I'll do these in stages. So in the calculator, 1.4 divided by 28 is giving me an answer of 0.05. And then here I've got 7.1 divided by 35.5. So 7.1 divided by 35.5. And here I've got an answer of 0.2. And then the final step is divide by the smallest. So the smallest number here is 0.05. So do 0.05 divided by 0.05. And I've got 0.2 divided by 0.05. That's going to give me 1. That's going to give me 4. So my empirical formula is going to be Si1. So let's just write that down. That's just Si. And then I've got Cl4. So here we have got Cl4. Marks for this is 3. Marks wise, you get 1 mark for making sure you write down the formula. So always write down the formula at the end. Another mark here for working out the correct ratios, and another mark in here for working out the correct number of moles. Make sure you show you're working out. You have to show working out on those calculations in order to get the marks. Okay, next question. It says the periodic table is organized into groups and periods. We need to tell them which period and which group silicone is found in. So if you go to the periodic table, remember that on the periodic table, I'll do a quick little sketch here. There's my periodic table. Remember, on the periodic table, when you go across, we are going across, we call those periods, and when you go down, we call those groups. And I know that silicone is over here, underneath carbon in group 4. So the group number is 4, and it's in the 3rd row going across, so it's in the 3rd period as we go across as well. Describe differences between Mendeleev's periodic table and the modern periodic table. So there's loads of options here for this one. Mendeleev, first thing for me was that he left gaps for elements to be discovered, and the modern periodic table hasn't got those gaps inside it. Also, the modern periodic table, so Mendeleev's periodic table had fewer elements because they hadn't all been discovered. There were fewer elements in the table. Okay, as I said, there's loads of marks available there. I'll just pick two of the obvious ones, one mark for each of those.